It's Your Shot campaign is a students' association campaign which aims to provide students with facts about the current UK COVID-19 vaccine programme. We're delighted to be joined by Professor Jason Leitch. We're also joined by Iona Gibson, our Student Association Vice President for Diversity and Wellbeing, and we're joined by Amy Watson, one of our faculty reps for Creative Industries. We'll go first then to Iona, who has our first question for Professor Jason Leitch.
Thank you, Ian. So, Professor Leitch, what would you say to encourage a student to take the shot?
COVID is a horrible disease. I'm sorry to start negatively, but COVID is really nasty. It's not only nasty in the elderly, but it's particularly bad in older people or those who have pre-existing conditions. But it's also pretty horrible when you're young. So it's not the cold. Some people get it asymptomatically, but many people get it very, very seriously. And just in the last few days, there's been research that suggests 1 million people across the UK have what we call long COVID or post-COVID syndrome, a disease we don't fully understand yet, but it's got effects on your heart, your lungs, your neurological system, your tiredness, etc., etc. The vaccine, safe, effective, and very, very good for you because it's a lot better than COVID. So it's the way out, not just for me as an individual and you as an individual, but it's the way out for the whole population. And that's really important. It's different from having diabetes and you taking insulin. That doesn't matter to me. You having the COVID vaccine matters to me. And me having the COVID vaccine matters to you.
COVID is more dangerous for older people. Why should young people take the vaccine?
If COVID were just a disease of the elderly, then perhaps that would be a reason for us not to pay too much attention. Two challenges. One is COVID doesn't know how old you are, so it moves through the age groups. So the COVID outbreak could start in children and end up in a care home. Or it could start with you in your family and end up with your granny or your grandpa in your family. It jumps from person to person very, very easily. And therefore, until the whole population is protected, none of us are protected. In fact, you could argue that we need to protect the whole world before we're all fully protected. The second reason is we cannot tell by looking at you how severe your disease will be. And some young people have been very sick and some unfortunately have died of this disease. It's more unusual than it is in the elderly, but not impossible. And then the other reason, the third of my two reasons, is long COVID. So post-COVID syndrome is a real thing in people. And about 1 million people now have it across the UK. And that tends, we think, to be more common in women and more common in younger people than older people.
The Students' Association carried out a recent survey for the It's Your Shot campaign. We asked students if they had any concerns about vaccination. And the main things that were coming up were concerns over the risk of developing blood clots. What would you say to help alleviate these concerns?
Yeah, that is a real concern. That's a proper question, and people should investigate it. Where I would ask them to go is not me. It's not even the government. I would ask them to go to the independent scientists who look at these things on our behalf. There are two places in the UK that happens. One is called the MHRA, which is the medicines regulator. Don't work for the government. They're a set of independent boffins who look at all of the global research to decide what we should do. And the second place is the Joint Committee on Vaccination. For 30 years, they've told us how to vaccinate against measles, how to vaccinate against flu, how to vaccinate against COVID. And both of those groups look at the data all the time. They meet every week, sometimes more often than that, and they tell us who we should give the vaccine to, which ones are safe, when we should do them, etc., etc. If you want to get really excited, you could go to the European Medicines Association, which is the European regulator, and other parts of the world. They today say the benefits hugely outweigh the risk. So they are looking constantly, but today they say the benefits outweigh the risk. Nothing is without risk, but I can tell you something, COVID is a big risk. So therefore, this is worth doing.
Will staff and students be required to use home testing kits prior to returning to college?
Nobody will be required to test. We're not doing mandatory testing anywhere in the country. We think the best way to protect individuals is for them to want to do it, for them to understand why. So the plan is that when further education returns, there will be a testing programme that will almost certainly be lateral flow tests, the ones you do at home that we've used some school pupils doing in the last few weeks. Very straightforward, a little bit uncomfortable with the cotton bud in your throat, but no pain, and very, very easy to do. And now quite reliable, not 100% reliable, but quite reliable, and will stop some chains of transmission and will help us protect you, your loved ones, your other students, and your staff inside your colleges. So yes, there will be a testing programme. You won't be forced to do it, but my advice is to do it.
So the government have noticed a hesitancy from some people about accessing the vaccine. Can you advise why this may be happening, and also explain what people should do to find out the facts about the vaccination?
It's perfectly understandable. Vaccine hesitancy is not a stupid thing. It's actually quite a sensible thing. I mean, we're asking you to put something in your body that we have made in the last year for a disease that's only existed for 14 months. I'm not remotely surprised there's questions about that. I think it's healthy. I think anti-vaccination is unhealthy. That's a different thing. That's people who believe in conspiracy theories and think we're out to get them. The vaccine hesitancy, I think, is very sensible. People asking questions about allergy, about asthma, about whether they should have this vaccine when they've got this disease. The place to go for informed information about that is nhsinform.scot. That's the Scottish government's website on vaccination and all things COVID. If you want to go a little bit beyond that, then there's other places you can go. For example, there's a thing called the Vaccine Confidence Project, who have a website about the safety and quality of all vaccines, of course, with a big focus just now on COVID. I would ask people to by all means, investigate online, and by all means, ask your pals, ask your peer group, but try and use trusted sources. Now, my version of trusted sources is the BBC, the British Medical Association, the European Medicines Agency. So people who have no real skin in the game, but will tell you the truth. Don't go off on some tangent looking for a reason not to have the vaccine on a conspiracy theory website. You'll be much better to use the mainstream trusted voices. Even if you don't believe the government guy, there are other trusted voices out there to help you with those decisions.
Does the COVID-19 vaccination prevent transmission? If not, why should we get it?
We don't know for sure that the COVID vaccine stops transmission, but there are encouraging signs that it does. There's just been published a Scottish study of 300,000 NHS workers who were vaccinated. And we tested their households. And we tested a comparable set of households who weren't vaccinated. If you lived with somebody who was vaccinated, you were 30% less likely to catch the virus. If you lived with somebody who'd had 2 doses, you were 54% less likely to catch the virus. So that suggests very strongly that the COVID vaccines presently available do help with transmission. We don't know that for sure. Research is ongoing. There's another big study in Brazil. We're doing more. I'm very, very hopeful that that's true. And it's important because it makes the difference between just protecting me, but also protecting you if we're together, or the care home resident if we go to visit, or our family if we go to visit.
If there are new variants of the COVID virus, will the vaccine be less effective, and will people have to be vaccinated each year?
It's a risk, and it's one of the reasons why we're trying to manage travel very safely, is the risk of new variants coming in and overwhelming us again. And vaccine escape, which is what the scientists call it, is one of those risks. It won't be yes, no, the vaccine suddenly doesn't work at all. It could be that the vaccine doesn't quite work as well. No vaccine is 100% effective. It's impossible. But it may be that we go from 90% effective to, let's say, 70% effective, and a few people would then be at risk. The companies and the scientists all over the world are working on that every single day to follow the variants, to adjust the vaccines for those variants. I think, we don't know this for sure yet, I think we probably will be in an annual programme for a little while. So there may well be a booster dose in the autumn, winter of this year, and then another one in 2022. It will depend what the virus does, and it will depend on global incidence rates. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if we're living with COVID vaccination for a little while to come.
People have experienced real hardships due to COVID-19, and unfortunately for some folk, their lives will never be the same. Some of the students returning to college life may feel anxious about coming back. What advice would you give them?
It's been really horrible, hasn't it? It's affected every person and in multiple ways. Some people won't be going back to their lives because the virus has killed them, and families are having to deal with that. Nearly 10,000 deaths in Scotland and 2.5 million deaths globally. We've never lived through anything like this. Anybody who's alive just now has never known anything like this. I think we will talk about the pandemic for the rest of our lives, literally. We'll talk about what happened after the pandemic. And everybody has been affected in different ways. Some have lost their jobs, some have lost educational opportunities, but there is light at the end of that tunnel, and it is not the train coming to get you. Life will come back to normal. People will start to engage again. And I think getting further education back is a crucial step in the next few weeks as we begin to do that. Now, that will look a little different. There might be more distancing. There might be a little bit fewer people around. We'll do testing. We'll still have to self-isolate if we have symptoms, but it is coming back. And people should talk. People should talk to each other, talk to their peer group, talk to their student representatives, talk to those who work with them and for them about what that will feel like. In my environment, the civil service building has been pretty much empty for a year and a bit. I've been one of the few who's been in and around it. It's going to feel very strange when that starts to fill up again and other people start to come back. And every workplace or educational environment is going to feel that. And we're going to have to be patient with people. Some people are going to find that really, really challenging to come back to that environment and suddenly be in the cafe again and suddenly be on the stairs of the building again. And we'll need to do that safely, but we need to do it sensibly. It's your shot. Take your shot.